there's nothing glorious about it. There's no heroes. There's very little chance of survival, and it's just bleak.
It kind of just released and disappeared. I don't think many people know that it even exists.
It's insane, right?
Art the Clown.
I'm something different.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to another Modern Horror Movie Talk. I'm your host, Tyler Nichols, and Andrew, back for another one. Oh, I guess I should say Andrew Hatfield, just in case people don't fully know, even though your name pops up. How you doing?
Good. There can be only one. There will never be another Andrew on this show. I will Highlander them and take all of their knowledge. I'm good. I got to keep my record for most appearances with you intact on this show. So I'm doing well. And today's topic is I'm excited about it. So
yeah, it's always fun to do some recommendations because one, I mean, I know you were on when we did the Netflix recommendations, but I'm sure you've been chomping at the bit to do some Shudder ones.
Yes, this was a little harder to make my final decisions. Netflix, I kind of had to drag for a little bit, especially after I saw your 3, because I would have taken 2 of your 3 on that one.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I guess before we even get into the recommendations, I want to talk very briefly. So we just recently found out you've seen stuff on the channel about Julian Sands recently, but his body was discovered that he had passed away when he disappeared. It was like a couple months ago. And so very sad news. I've always really liked Julian Sands, and in particular, a movie of his that I've always loved, yet somehow did not own, that then this tragedy kind of forced my hand, was I've been doing a deep dive on arachnophobia. And oh my God, anyone that has not seen this movie, you need to check it out. But the best thing is you can even watch it with your kids. It's that kind of movie. It is so good. And in fact, we even have a WTF on the Joe Blow horror side that just aired this last Friday, specifically because of trying to honor Julian Sands. So definitely check that out. And more importantly, just check out Arachnophobia because it's incredible. And yeah, check out any movie from his career. We'll definitely be covering a lot of his stuff over the next few months on the channel because he deserves it, because he's an awesome actor and it's very sad that he's gone.
Yeah, he was a workhorse. I think definitely Arachnophobia has to be the first movie I saw him in, just because I saw that in theaters when it came out. But the first time I really noticed him, I think, was when I would go through all of the Stephen King TV movie adaptations. And so Rose Red was the first time I really noticed him as a main character in that. But then, I mean, I saw him in, of course, the first 2 Warlock movies and Naked Lunch, which you and I have talked about. And
yes,
I haven't seen Boxing Helena, and I think I need to, especially after hearing John talk about it today.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about that, but I have not seen it either. And saying just like you, I was looking through his filmography and just like, holy crap, there's so many good movies that he's been in. And yeah. I say that as someone that I've never seen the Warlock films. So that's going to be one thing that I do a deep dive on, because I've heard nothing but good things, that they're very entertaining and very B movie. And I like that.
Yeah. The Vestron has a 3-pack, and it's actually on relative sale right now on Amazon. The third one has Bruce Payne as the Warlock character. He's not as good, but the first 2 are very solid films, and great like B-movie actors or just character actors show up in them too. So high recommends on that.
Awesome. Well, before we even get into drinks or anything like that, there's also another thing I want to talk about, because we're officially into a very interesting time of the year where this is going to be the last recommendations video for a bit, because we have a lot of really good high profile releases coming out for, quite a good stretch of time. So I'm really, really excited about it. And also, I will be taking part in Fantasia, which is the Canadian horror and sci-fi film festival. So I'm going to be having an opportunity to see a lot of really good horror films that then I'm going to do something involving that, whether it's just a single video that then goes over the recommended films, or it'll be something involving Fantasia. So July and August are going to be very, very exciting times for Modern Horror Movie Talk. So definitely keep an eye on the channel. So I'm excited about it all. Besides that, I have an important question for you, Andrew. What you drinking?
It is warm. It finally decided to become summer in Colorado, so I am just enjoying a nice margarita on the rocks.
Nice.
Nothing fancy. It's the Kirkland brand, so the giant jug of pre-made margarita, but it's refreshing and it's getting the job done. I know the answer, but how about you, Tyler?
So I am currently coming off of being very sick, and I have a lot of stomach issues going on right now. So I will not be drinking for the foreseeable future, but I don't want to be lame and not have anything fun to have on the show. So instead, I'm going to replace that with fun pops. And if there's one thing that I think of when I think of fun pops, it's Jones soda. And so I got myself a blue bubblegum soda. I'll check out. I have like a real cool local pop shop, candy shop that has a ton of like insane flavors. And so I'm going to stop by there, and that'll be what my supply of drinks for the month are. So I'll still have some fun things, and I'll make sure to get some gross ones too. So it's not all just good tasting. So.
But absolutely. Those were treats back in California. So cheers to that.
Yeah. Cheers, and cheers to everyone at home. And yeah. Cheers to some Shudder Rex. So this is a very exciting episode because I'm a big fan of a lot of the stuff we're talking about, and I don't know two of the films we're talking about, so that's even more exciting. So, Andrew, what is your first Shudder pick?
So I tried to break this down into like three separate categories. There's Shudder originals, or at least ones that they, bought and have exclusivity to. And then there's another type was like maybe not a hidden gem, but something that I feel everyone needs to see. And then the third one I wanted to do, because they have, 9 or 10 different documentaries on different types, different subgenres of horror movies, and different, even like actors, directors. There's full documentaries on like the making of just single movies. But for the first one, I went with Scare Package, which that one was harder. A special runner-up, I almost picked The Ranger. I don't know if you saw that one.
I haven't seen that.
Another original one that is great, but Scare Package, it's got a lot going for it just in terms of my wheelhouse, right? So Joe Bob Briggs is in it. They hosted it on the last drive-in.
Yes.
Also, it's an anthology film. And I know anthology films, they're never perfect. And few are, because Creepshow, I think, is perfect. I don't think there's one dud story in Creepshow, but I'd say 98% of anthology films have one or two duds, and this is no exception. I think this is 6 stories plus the wraparound story.
Which the wraparound story is my favorite. I love the wraparound.
It's the best story. No, it's not even close. There's a couple of them that I was like, okay, come on, let's get back to back to Rad Chad and his video store. And
yes,
you can tell it was made with love. Like, yes, it's reference after reference, but it's not in an annoying way, in my opinion. They tried to give a lot of the stories a chance to breathe, and some of them, the script had to have been like 3 pages and they stretched out to 15 minutes worth. But I think overall, I think it's a movie that needs to be seen. There's a sequel. I think it's coming soon. I don't think it's quite out yet, but no, Scare Package 2. It's out? Okay.
Yeah, it's out on Shudder.
Haven't gotten to check it out then.
It's
missing stuff. Okay, good to know. I'm gonna watch it because it's an anthology movie, and that's my heroin straight to the arm. If I see it, I'm like, yep, give me the anthology. I'm gonna watch it.
So I actually had to review the second one for Joe Blow, and so I hadn't seen the first one, and I do my due diligence as a reviewer, and I'm like, I don't feel like I can properly review this if I just don't see the first one. So I watched the first one and loved it so much, and then the second one, it has its moments. I'll say it has its moments, but yeah, it just didn't really hit me as much as I wanted it to. But still, the first one, a very good pick.
Yeah, and like I said, it was hard to narrow down. A lot of their stuff, their original stuff, and I won't turn this into a bunch of honorable mentions because that kind of defeats the purpose of this. No. But a lot of their original stuff, or their stuff that they buy up from the circuit, is very watchable and good new horror that maybe just misses the cut of a theatrical release. They're like, we're not going to get much out of this, but it deserves a view. And I think Scare Package is definitely one of those.
Yeah, I love me some. Whew, sorry. It is and for those unaware, the Midwest is dealing with some smoke currently. And so that has been my whole day, is just like randomly coughing, even though I'm just in my room. So I guess I know what it's like to have a smoker's lung now. But yeah, so that might happen randomly in the show. I'll try and cut them out. But in case you notice a weird cut, that's why that's happening. I agree with what you said about Shudder. And that's why actually this time for my Shudder picks, I tried to make sure that all of them were Shudder exclusives. That way it's stuff that can't see elsewhere, because I wanted to highlight just, I don't know, their good catalog and just how good they are at picking amazing things, because there are some things that then cross over into like Amazon Prime and I think even Hulu. So that's why I picked specific Shudder exclusives. So my first pick is Psycho Goreman, which I don't know if you've seen this one, but it's very, very, very fun. I recommend anyone that hasn't seen it go in with low expectations, because I mean, I went in with very low expectations, didn't know what to expect, and had a blast. But if I had gone into it, I don't know, expecting high art, then I may have been slightly disappointed, I would say. It gets very silly, but it's very good still.
Yeah, and I would say go in as blind as you can. I think that within the horror movie, that does have somewhat of a high profile. I know I'm in one of the Joe Bob Facebook groups. I think I'm in the good one. They complain a lot about another one, but almost every week in season 3 or 4, they're like, it's going to be Psycho Goreman this week. It's going to be Psycho Goreman. They're going to talk about that. They're going to show this movie. It's perfect for the drive-in. And yeah, I wouldn't even say go in with low expectations, which you should in most movies, to be fair, because, it's better than getting disappointed. But even that movie, I would go in with just knowing as little as possible, because it has a lot of fun irreverence to it. It has a lot of kind of shocking, not even not twist in the traditional sense of it. It's not like a M Night twist that's thrown at you, but stuff happens that you don't quite expect to happen. And knowing as little as possible, I think, is the best way to do that.
Yeah, all I'll say is that the warrior's death that Psycho Goreman gives his enemies is probably my favorite gag in the entire movie. Though I do have to mention too, just as a little bit of like a negative, a little girl is extremely annoying. So it's going to be one of those things where if you can't get past her, then you might have trouble with the film. But if you can get past her, then it's a fun time. And even, I would say, even by the end, she still is endearing enough, but they do push it a little far with her.
Yeah, and she's not a small part either. It's not like the little girl from Monster Squad, who's not annoying at all. I love that part, but
yeah, she's amazing.
She's in it intermittently, whereas the little girl in Psycho Goreman is the third main character, essentially.
Yeah, if she really competes with her brother in terms of screen time.
Yeah, I would agree that she can be a lot to take, but if you can just look past it and kind of just not even tune her out, because I mean, she is an important part of the story, but just get past it's a crapshoot when you get kid actors, and they didn't hit this time with her. So it is what it is.
Yep. And there's so many cool practical effects that I think are totally worth the, I don't know, price of admission. I had so much fun with it.
Yeah, I'd love to see the writing directing team go, or is it just one guy that did both? I'd love to see them make another movie. Stuff like the guy who did Housebound then turned around and did Megan. And I know that's a split on people loving and hating that movie, but I love seeing people put in a smaller movie effort and then get rewarded by the studios to, helm a bigger horror movie. And I'd love to see that happen.
I love to see people succeed like that. It's just incredible. And unfortunately, it looks as though this guy, he did a segment in VHS 94, which is good, but then he directed 4 episodes of the Day of the Dead TV show. So,
oh no.
Yeah. Oh, he directed Leprechaun Returns and The Void. It's that guy.
Oh, I really like The Void.
So do I.
That's one of those John Carpenter light movies that they throw around, because it's got the synth score and it's got the practical effects, and it's a little pinch of Lovecraft thrown in, and it's good stuff. Yeah, did not know that was the same guy. All right, he's already accomplished. Yeah, he just kind of he's got in the wrong order.
Yeah, he's got to get back on the right path. But what's your next one?
What type of movies scare you the most? I know what your favorite type. You love a good possession movie. But what do you think?
Nuclear holocaust.
Okay.
Genuinely, even if I didn't know what you were doing, that is my genuine answer.
So disaster movies have always put me, on edge more. Not even if they're like how realistic they are, like 2012. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be Knowing. It could be, the twin films of Armageddon and Deep Rising. It could be anything. Just disaster films scare me. Mm-hmm. And then the more plausible, the stuff that's caused by us is even more scary. And I can say that Threads, which is a, British almost instructional video or warning of what full out nuclear war would be, is the scariest movie I've ever seen. And it's very hard for me to watch it. It's so realistic and you'd love it because it's a downer. Yeah. I know you love like the down, not things don't end well for people. Like it's just a hard movie to watch. And it's especially in the current climate, 80s is retro, even with its existential dread that goes on, 80s is back. And yeah, it's, I hesitated forever to watch it. And what's going to happen. There's a mushroom cloud on the DVD cover. Mm-hmm. So what's going to happen. And you're just waiting for it. And they show you the lives of these people that their lives are about to. And there's nothing glorious about it. There's no heroes. There's very little chance of survival. And it's just bleak. And it shows far into the future what would happen, like how long it would take for humanity to even get back on its feet. And God, it's grim. And it's effective and it's well shot and well acted. And I don't think I ever want to watch it again, even though I own the DVD down here from Severin Films. So that high recommend. I've
had it on my Shudder list ever since they added it to the service, and I just have not had the balls to watch because I just, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world where I'm like, this will just bring me down a rabbit hole of despair. And I prefer those to be done due to some kind of silly monster or slasher person, not something like that.
If and when you watch it, I would suggest as a little sandwich. So you watch something lighter, then you watch Threads, and then you take that other piece of light bread and you watch something else, or even just a comfort food movie for you.
That's not how I do things. I like to double. If I'm gonna watch something like that, then I'm like, okay, the day's already ruined in terms of my mood. What other movies have I been meaning to watch that are so depressing?
Go for it, but it will be at the top of your list in terms of depressing, hard to watch, and it is horrifying in the very literal sense of horror. There's no monster, there's no sci-fi creature, there's no masked killer. It is just what would happen if and when the next world war broke out and your local town got a nuke just outside of it.
Oh, you know what I just realized? I actually have an update for our folks, because on the last Shudder Recommends, Lance recommended Bad Moon.
The Eric Red werewolf movie.
Yes, I watched it, and holy shit, yes. I need to buy that movie immediately. That was incredible. I'll just say that I really, really loved that movie, and it was definitely, I took Lance's recommendation to heart, so I'll take your Threads recommendation to heart too, and I'll definitely check it out.
Well, we need to hear back from Lance too, because wasn't he going to watch something that you had recommended to him? I feel like he was.
Yes, he was. Oh, yeah. Stay tuned, people. And if he didn't watch it, then it'll be even more sad, because he had 10 days, and that'll have been much worse than that. But
yeah.
Next movie. My next pick is one. It's a little off the beaten path, but this is something that I really, really wanted to talk about. So I grew up on Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments, and I absolutely was obsessed with it. I would have it on after school. It would be, especially in October, Bravo would essentially play just segments of it from like 3 p.m. to I think like 5 p.m., which is like right when I got home from school. So I would just have that on, and didn't matter what the episode was, I would just watch it. That was my first introduction to many different films. I had no idea what Rosemary's Baby was at that point, and then just seeing it on that show made me go, I need I need to see this immediately. The number of films that I know that I bought specifically because they were on that show is, I don't know, astronomical, because that's what I did at that age. I was always blind buying movies that I just heard about because, I don't know, you didn't have streaming services. You could rent stuff, but it was, I don't know, easier to buy for me. And so when Shudder then decided that they were going to essentially reboot it with 101 scariest movie moments of all time, I was so happy. And then it kind of just released and disappeared. I don't think many people know that it even exists. And especially the fact that it exists in the way that it is essentially a sequel series to Bravo's version, except this is better production value. And it honestly does feature a lot of the same people, only with some new faces of horror, like Edgar Wright and Mike Flanagan is in it. But the production value is so much higher than the old Bravo version. But it is kind of almost like a sad reminder of how many people we've lost in the horror community, because obviously Wes Craven's not there, and there's a lot of people like that where you're like, oh, you're kind of reminded, or at least I am, where then they're talking about a film and then it's like it was a film that was also featured on the original version, where then I'm like, oh yeah, they could actually have Wes Craven talk about this here. And so that aspect kind of sucks. But have you seen the show?
I started it. I haven't gotten all the way through it because I want to say is it 10 episodes, 8 episodes, something like that?
I don't remember. I feel like it's
in chunks.
Yeah, and I don't think it's in normal chunks. Like I feel like they do like 8, 7, 9.
Yeah. No, I'm not all the way through it. It is good. And I do distinctly remember watching that thing on Bravo. And it's great with this is because, to your point, they have new people, but they also have, nearly 20 plus years of other horror movies that they can then add to the list.
Yeah.
Which, if I'm being honest, there's a lot from the last 20 years that I think could have replaced some of that stuff on that original list. No disrespect to it, but so I remember that. And then there's a cool documentary called Terror in the Aisles. You ever seen that one?
Mm-mm.
It's hosted by Donald Pleasance and Nancy Allen from all the De Palma films. And they're sitting in a packed theater, and they just go back and forth in segments and introduce stuff. Now, that was made in 1984. So anything before that is fair game, but there's nothing after that. So it's kind of dated on the stuff, but that was
84.
Kind of, yeah, 39 years, right? That's no big deal.
Well, 40 years of horror. Like, come on.
Yeah. Anyway, but when I was, I'm born in 1985, so I probably watched that on VHS in like 1992. It was only, it was only 8 years old, 7 years old at that point. So
much about your taste makes so much sense now. Or I'm like pre-84.
That's why that's all that, I can tell you random dates and actors, but I have to, ask my wife what's for dinner 3 times in a day. That's how my my beautiful mind works. But so Terror in the Aisles, they have its own Shout Factory Blu-ray. But if you get this random Halloween 2 disc, it comes with the full Terror in the Aisles as a special feature, like the full movie on Blu-ray.
Then I have seen that. Yeah. I own that. I've watched all of the specials on all those Halloween discs. So I guess I have that.
Terror in the Aisles. So I don't know if that one made it to any of the new Halloween ones. That is a random Halloween 2 Blu-ray. By some random, I think might be by Sony, whoever owned it. Anyway, yeah, because I think they did, because Terror in the Aisles got its own standalone release from Shout Factory on a bare bones disc. So it's like, why wouldn't you own obviously you'd want to own the nice big Halloween set, but anyway, yeah, I need to finish it. I went through Eli Roth's thing, his history of horror. I've gone through all 3 seasons of that. This is better than that. Yeah. And it's a lot shorter.
Yeah, Roth's history of horror kind of lost me. I didn't really enjoy how it was set up. And it was kind of cheesy, I guess, with how they did it. Like, it wasn't my kind of aesthetic, but I don't think anything Roth does is anymore.
But I need to finish that thing. And other people need to watch it. I'd love, the more views that stuff gets on Shudder, we're blessed with Joe Bob getting 5 seasons, and I don't think he's going away anytime soon. I believe.
Yeah, I think it's really helps with the channel out. That's what it seems like. Yes. It seems like it's a flagship series.
Yes. And so if more people watch stuff like this, we'll get more stuff like this.
Yes.
Or like their documentary on found footage films, their documentary on, they have a bunch of their documentaries on different types of genres, which is a great lead-in into my next movie.
Yeah, I was just about to say. And so what's your next pick?
All right, so my next pick, it's not Shudder exclusive in the sense that it's made by or produced by Shudder, but I believe it's only streaming on Shudder. It's All the Colors of Giallo, and it is a 3.5-hour documentary on the history of the Italian giallo film. And it's just wonderful. They even go into like the sister series. So Germany had the Krimi films, Krimi, and that was their version of the giallo.
Is this the movie that's in Italian?
Yes, with subtitles.
Of course, you're like, as soon as you start saying, I'm like, I think I started this, and then I was like, what the fuck? They're just speaking Italian, and like my thing, the Shudder that I was using wasn't working in terms of being able to start the subtitles, so the subtitles weren't on. So I was just like, well, I can't watch this. Okay, well now I know what. So for those that need to know, it's Italian. So
yeah. It does have subtitles. I own it's a 3-disc Severin Blu-ray 4K. I own it. It's great. It gives you like a full education on everything. And much like a lot of the other things we were talking about, like with you and Bravo, and you were writing down movies, I was writing down a bunch of Italian horror movies where I was like, that looks weird as hell. I want to watch that movie. So I'm going to write that down. It's funny because it's all stuff. I'll be the Italian horror guy since Lance will never, ever watch Italian horror. He's quite adamant. And I've tried to text him, hey, have you tried this one? Like, I think you might like that. He's like, nah, I'm not going to do it. I'll gladly be the Italian horror guy. But yes, if you have even a passing interest in, and again, my big old history nerd, put my degree to good use. But if you have a passing interest in giallo films and you're okay with subtitles, it's just fascinating. I cannot recommend it enough. And it'll open the door to figure out what ones you haven't seen. Because I think the average horror fan's like, yeah, I know what Deep Red is. I know what some of these other ones are, mostly Argento films, but this is just a silly amount of them. So yeah, I cannot recommend that enough.
That's me. When I think of giallo, I'm like, Deep Red. And to be fair, I am also a very vanilla giallo person. I love me some American slasher film and have seen practically all of them. But in terms of Italian horror, I am so very lacking, and mostly because of the fact that, it's just hasn't been for me really. Like I'm not a big Suspiria fan. I'm not like, I like Deep Red and Phenomena.
Those skirt Suspiria and Phenomena skirt the line, right? Because there's supernatural stuff. Like Suspiria it's the first of the Mother's trilogy. There's all kinds of witches and ghostly stuff. And then even Phenomena, there's the whole, Jennifer Connelly can telepathically talk to bugs. Granted, there's a monkey with a razor blade. So what more do you want like in that movie? But
I like the weirdness of it.
The other thing I try to recommend, I mentioned Brian De Palma earlier, but Brian De Palma's movies are essentially American giallos. I know Hitchcock is his main guy, but his movies are so gory and full of like nudity stuff that Hitchcock couldn't do. They're pretty much just American giallos. So like that's a good getting your foot in the door if you watch a bunch of his stuff, like Body Double, and it's the Michael Caine one with Angie Dickinson.
Dressed to Kill.
Dressed to Kill. You watch a bunch of those movies, and if you like them, then you can kind of go back, and I would even start with like the Deep Reds of the world. Like look up the insanely popular ones, and then you can get into like, the Crescent Moon and the Eye of the Deer and all those random, random titled ones. But yeah, so I recommend.
Well, there we go. So if you want some giallo action, check that out. And then for my final pick, I went with one that this has actually been brought up on the show a couple times, but I wanted to give it a full-blown spotlight because I love this movie. And pretty much everyone I know that has seen it really enjoys this movie, and that is Glorious. This is pretty much about a guy that is stuck in a bathroom talking to a cosmic glory hole that is played by J.K. Simmons. It's amazing that it is a film that takes place almost entirely in a bathroom, yet it is riveting throughout. the pacing. There were so many times where, especially going into the movie, I was very kind of trepidatious and kind of expecting like, okay, this is going to be slower paced and I'm going to be kind of annoyed at how much it doesn't move along. But it's expertly done, and especially the cosmic horror part is just so cool. And one aspect that I want to bring up is that like writer-director Rebecca McKendry is actually a former journalist that is making a name for herself in the horror world. So that's really inspiring to see and really awesome because, I mean, she started in our shoes. So it's cool to see her doing her thing because I'm not sure if you saw even in and that's probably where I brought it up in the summer movie preview with Lance. She has a film coming out this summer called The Elevator Game. And because of Glorious, I am looking forward to any time I see her name pop up because she just seems to have a very, very unique voice.
You tell me that premise, but it's remarkably written as well. I can never remember his name. He was in True Blood, but is the main guy.
Ryan Quanten.
Quanten, yeah. And he does a great job.
Like, yeah, I don't know. It's probably not Quanten. I just like to say like Quanten.
Sound like a duck.
Well, it sounds like I'm saying like Quentin, like, but like I have a heavy accent. Quentin Tarantino. He's
Australian too, right? Ryan is okay. Yeah, the beauty and the reason I think why we talk about Shudder is Shudder can put anything, the most wild premise of a movie on there, and I'll be like, sure, let me give it a chance. And it doesn't get much more wild than dude trapped in a bathroom talking to a glory hole.
Yeah.
And the fact that they pulled J.K. Simmons for the voice.
I mean, he works so well in the role. And so actually, I didn't even remember this until just now. I saw this as part of Fantasia's lineup last year. And so I had how Fantasia works is they'll have a whole lineup of stuff that then it'll tell you a very brief summary of the film with then the creative people behind it. You can request screeners through that. As soon as I saw Glorious, and it has this I believe it even says something like cosmic glory hole. J.K. Simmons plays a cosmic glory hole. Sold. That's really all you need because it's so entertaining. And I mean, I'm focusing on the most obvious aspect of it, but there's a lot of twists and turns and that I think that you won't see coming. But it's the reason that I recommend this to people. It's not the glory hole aspect, but even the cosmic horror aspect. It's some of the other stuff that I think is so well done that I think needs to be talked about.
Well, it's like, you don't want Boogie Nights is about porn and it has lots of sex and nudity in it, but that's not the reason to watch the movie. Sure, yes. It's entertaining, but the acting, the story, the character arcs, that's why you're watching that movie. And the same thing, we're going to give you a ridiculous premise with Cosmic Glory Hole, and we're going to show you what we can do with that, essentially. I'm
very curious to know how where even this idea came from, because I feel like they haven't talked a ton about the backstory behind it. So I'd be so curious to know. But if you haven't seen Glorious, make sure you check it out because phenomenal. Absolutely. So much fun. I think we pretty much did it. I'm feeling confident with this with these picks, and I think that we've gotten a good selection of the Shudder stuff because like you said earlier, it's so hard. I've now done 2 of these, and so that means we've already taken 12 films because it's 6 total. 12 films off of Shudder. And yet I know that the next time I do this, it is still going to be so difficult to trying to pick stuff because there's so many. It does not take long to be able to just formulate a massive list when coming up with recommendations. So I can't say enough of how great Shudder is. Anything else about Shudder?
No, I'm just glad. Originally, I think there was going to be 3 of us here, and it was going to be 2 apiece. And even just getting that one extra pick, I was like, okay, that makes me less stressed. I can, I can grab. I don't have to eliminate quite as many on that. But no, just Shudder. Shudder's great. If you've somehow, I mean, if you're fans of this channel and our flagship channel, and you somehow haven't done Shudder, there's usually 30-day free trials floating around, but it's worth. I pay the yearly I think it's $70 a year. I just pay the yearly every time. And there's always, always, always something to watch. And just the way they do, they're like, you can watch random stuff that's always playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
On their category. And they have like Slashix and, current and all that stuff. They have their Ghoul log and they're just wonderful. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. As someone who really likes to just have the TV on playing stuff, I love Shudder and how I can just like throw it on and it's just playing some random thing. Cause then I'll randomly like be making lunch and then come out and I'm like, what in the heck exploitation film is on the TV right now? This is amazing. I definitely need to check this out more. So, all right. So I feel like we pretty much covered it. Thank you, Andrew, for joining. And next week, we're getting into the brunt of summer movie season because we will be covering Insidious: The Red Door. And this is actually an interesting thing because Andrew will actually be joining me for this 3 weeks in a row now.
He means we will be covering it.
Yeah, we will be covering
the two of us will be covering it.
And hopefully, I hate saying just because schedules are all over the place, but I'm hoping Jimmy O will also be joining us for the recording. But I don't know. Last week went absolutely insane with all of the crazy mishaps. So I'm not going to give you guys any kind of promise about that, but hopefully Jimmy will be on and Andrew will be on. We'll be talking some Insidious: Red Door, and I'm excited about it. I'm gonna probably watch the other 4 movies beforehand because I haven't watched them in probably a decade, so I need to get caught up.
Perfect. Technically you only need to watch the first 2, but 3 and 4 have, the lore world building. But yeah, my oldest just went through them all and I watched a couple with him. So I'm ready to go.
Awesome. Well, and I'm excited for next week. And thank you guys for joining and we will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.